my first thought was why, and my second thought was, why would I ask why? Of course you have to love yourself. You're gonna have to live with yourself for the rest of your life. We should all learn to love ourselves a bit.
Today, we're joined by Ananda De Jager. She was born in Goes, the Netherlands. After getting amenorrhea in 2018, she was on a spiritual healing journey, facing her inner demons and having a strong calling to inspire others. While doing so, she shared many poems written by others on her Instagram account. She noticed people connected with her through these poems and dedicated to start writing herself. Putting things on paper helped her through the healing process, and rereading her poems gave her reminders of why she's doing what she does. Today, Ananda will be sharing the power of mindset and vulnerability, as well as sharing her story of recovering from an eating disorder and creating self-love. Welcome, Ananda.
Thank you.
Awesome. So why don't we start with telling us a little bit about yourself and how you kind of got to this point where you're at right now.
All right, well, so I'm Ananda. I'm 26 years old. I'm from the Netherlands, but I live in Belgium. And well, diving right into the topic, ever since I was young, I was, I think, a very insecure teenager, and I wanted to control my environment. And for me, that control spiraled into more controlling food and my food choices. So if I was a certain weight or ate a certain thing, I would feel good. Not really learning to deal with my emotions, because what a lot of people don't know is the less you eat, the less you feel, because you're so food obsessed 24/7 that you don't really have time to feel your emotions. And that actually stayed with me until a few years ago. And then after I broke up with my boyfriend at the time and I moved cities, I didn't get my period. And I was like, oh, it's because I stopped the pill, it's fine. But after 6 months of not getting your period, people telling you you're too skinny, because amenorrhea is not getting your period. I think not everybody knows that. I don't know why they
I
choose
didn't
such
know
a
that until today.
yeah. I don't know why they choose such a difficult word for it. And so then I was like, okay, I need to get it back. Like, I don't know if I want kids. And of course, some days I was like, I want kids, I don't want kids. And then also I was like, I can't eat this little for the rest of my life. Like, you're just going to go crazy. So I started working on getting it back. But I also knew if I would go to a doctor, they would probably say, oh, like, eat more or take the pill, you'll have it. But then you don't really fix, I feel, the core issue. Because in the end, eating disorders are a mental issue, right? It's not just about the food. It's not about the food. It's the food is used as a coping mechanism, and that's the unhealthy part. So it was really relearning to cope with my emotions, do a lot of healings like with Reiki or other energy work. Look at, for example, which foods can my body tolerate, which foods can it not. Um, and also becoming more into the feminine energy. So the world is very masculine, right? Always going, organizing, and females, they're actually very soft as well. And I think this energy, it's often forgotten for females. It's always about work, 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 whereas the feminine, it's also very soft, self-care. So it was really about, yeah, coming back
Yeah,
there.
that's really interesting. And I think something you said at the very beginning is kind of a major thing, like that feeling of you need to be in control or maybe even losing control. So some people who may be going through something similar like this, they might be teenagers just kind of trying to discover who they are, what they want to do. What, in your kind of experience, what was the control about? Like, was there something in your personal life that you were trying to control more of, or something that drove you to have more control or to want more control?
Actually, I always told myself people would like me better if I'm slim. And then I would like me better when I was slim. So if I was a certain weight, I would act different. I would act more happy, more at ease with my body. And I'm talking 1 kilo difference, right? I don't know what that is in LBS, but
I don't know either.
like, let's say I was 120 LBS and the next day I would be 121. That would dictate my day. that like, oh no, people only like me at 120, whereas nobody sees that. It's like
Yeah.
there's no difference. And I think also about being insecure and not wanting to feel your emotions. If you focus on something else, then that kind of takes away from the problem.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Um, Now, you're a new author, which is really exciting. And you've written a book called Poems of Recovery, A Young Girl's Path to Recovering from an Eating Disorder and Amenorrhea. It's available on Amazon right now for anyone who's listening who wants to check out this book. I have read it. It's like you're in Ananda's soul when you're reading it. It's really awesome. She was nice enough to send me a copy of the book. It is phenomenal. So anyone who might be thinking of, someone who may even have an eating disorder or someone who you might feel has an eating disorder, I would say buy a copy of this book and at least see her journey. I mean, it's like a roller coaster. And I felt like when I was reading it, I was really going through her life and feeling the struggles and the ups and the downs. So check it out on Amazon. There will be a link in the show notes down below where you can get a copy of it. But I just wanted to do a quick promo to that while we're kind of in the beginning stages of this podcast.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
so when was the point when you felt like, enough is enough and you needed to make that change?
That's a tough one. I don't think there was really one day where I was like, oh my God, now I need to make a change. I think it was more gradual, but you always try to eat more, for example, or you try to work on your issues, but then you always go back. And at one point, I just thought, yeah, okay, you try the same thing over and over, but you keep going back. Why not keep going and see where you're at? And if it's really that bad, you just do another diet again and you lose the weight. Um, kind of comforting myself in that way. But it was also really tough to see my family like ask, like, can you please eat more or do this? And I think really losing my period. If I hadn't lost my period, I would never have worked on my eating issues ever.
Wow.
So I'm always, because I didn't feel like it was a problem until my body started showing me like, look, you're always cold, you are always obsessed with food, you have binges, you don't get your period. Like there's a lot of things that happen then. And maybe one turning point was when I went to work and in one day everybody had gained 5 kilo. And I remember staring at my colleagues and I was like, it's impossible that everybody gains 5 kilo, which I don't know, 10 lbs in
Yeah.
one day. I was like, no, my brain has been playing tricks with me. This is not right.
Wow. So it was more of not just like that epiphany moment. It was more of a gradual over
Yeah,
time and just kind of making that change. So I think that's important for anyone who's listening to. Change does not happen overnight. Change is something that's gradual, and like Ananda was saying, kind of in the pre-interview, it's more of like a roller coaster. You have those ups and you have those downs, and we were kind of joking around like you're just kind of praying for that up moment, and and when you get there, you just want to stay there. But know that anyone who's going through this or know someone who's going through this, it is like a roller coaster. So there will be ups, there will be downs, but the main thing is just to keep going and, understand that if you do have that kind of problem, it is mental, like Ananda was saying, and it's all about wrapping your head around that. Now, you said that when you were at your job. Now, as far as I remember, you were a model, correct?
yeah.
Are you still a
I
model?
no,
No?
no. I stopped. Yeah, after I finished studying, I stopped. I wanted to do something else.
Nice.
And of course, a lot of people are gonna think, oh, you were a model, so there's a lot of pressure on you being skinny, so that's where your eating disorder came from. No, I think, of course, um, you have to be slim as a model, but you also need to eat properly. There's a lot of girls who are naturally skinny, but it could very well be the opposite way around. If you have an eating disorder, you eat very little. Maybe you have a more model-like body, and that's why you get into modeling. But I think it was my insecurities and everything around that. And that modeling for me was kind of a way to say, No, I don't have an eating disorder. I just need to be skinny for my job, so I work out a lot. It's totally normal.
Right. And how often were you working out?
Ooh, at one point it was 9 times a week.
Yeah, like that's a lot to me. Like I'm lucky if I work out like twice a week.
But like for example, now I also work out every day of the week, right? But I'm fueling
Mhm.
my body. And if my body, and it's not like high intensity cardio every day, like all the time. No, it's more like weight training and then upper body, then lower body. Because if you do a lot of hit, your body's going to burn a lot, of course, but your body is also in a constant state of stress
Right.
because it's very stressful in the body
Mhm.
to do hit.
Yeah. So, kind of going back, I want to go back a little bit into when this kind of started. Um, you know, I'm sure it wasn't your parents that caused this to happen. I'm sure they were probably supportive of you. Like, and were your parents kind of like there to kind of try and guide you and like help you through this, or how did you go about getting help? Like, was it through your friends, your doctor, or just fully yourself?
I always shut my parents out, especially in the, yeah, when I was more in puberty. And I did most of the work alone because I didn't want to talk about it, because I didn't want to admit there was a problem. And looking back, and also for people out there, you don't have to do it alone, and it's going to take you much longer when you do it alone. So please ask for help. It's okay. So what I really started to notice when writing as well is opening up to other people. And the more vulnerable I became, the more vulnerable others became. Even now with the book, for example, people are telling me stories of their eating disorders or asking me for tips or whichever. So you're, uh, as shitty as it sounds, you're not the only one going through something tough. And there's people you can identify with, or people who've been through a similar thing, or even people who are totally outside of it and have never had it, that can help you. Like I have a friend and she's like, I genuinely love myself. And I'm like, my first thought was why? And my second thought was, why would I ask why? Of course you have to love yourself. You're gonna have to live with yourself for the rest of your life. We should all learn to love ourselves a bit more, but it's not just like that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that a lot of people, they sometimes I feel like their ego gets in the way. You know, like they don't want to look weak in front of their friends or their parents or someone like that. So I think what you were saying is really important. You know, like be willing to reach out and get that help if you need it. Now, I kind of want to shift gears a little bit and share a little bit from the book, some of the takeaways that I got. And like first thing, kind of going through the book, like on page 3 of the book, one of the poem that you had there was, "Can a body really thrive when it needs food to survive and I refuse to feed it?" And I believe you titled that one, "Do I want to be healthy or thin?" So that one, like it stuck out to me. I was like, wow, I'm going to get into something really intense here reading this book. Um, and, and, you know, as I kept going, like the poems were just getting like more intense, and, you know, it really opened my eyes to a world that I don't really know much about. So, you know, I thank you for opening my eyes to that. You know, it's really interesting. And the title of that one, "Do I want to be healthy or thin?" You know, there, can you kind of explain like the difference between that in your eyes and maybe what you were thinking when you wrote that?
So at one point I was quite skinny, meaning you could probably count my ribs. And my upper arms were as small as my lower arms, my upper legs were as small as my lower legs. Anyway, you get the picture.
Hmm.
And I like that look. Like, I'm not gonna lie, at that point, I was still like being skinny. I loved it. But if my body is shutting out vital functions, is it healthy to be at this place? Like, I'm still thin now, right? Like,
Hmm.
I'm never gonna be big. It's not in my nature. But at least everything is working now.
Yeah.
So I think, especially in the beginning, it was a struggle. Like, no, I'd rather be super skinny. No, I want to have the option to have kids one day. No, you don't need kids. You can worry about it later. Stay skinny for as long as you can. And if you want kids, then you can fix your problem. Like, it's really an internal battle between, you know, you're not eating enough. You know, you have to get better. But you kind of want to be at the point like, oh, I'm better. But you have to go through the mud first and to feel your feelings and to feel your emotions and to look at your patterns like, what is causing me not to eat? What is causing me to binge? What is causing me to get anxiety attacks? What is like, for me it was a lot of inner work also. Okay, where does this come from? Have I been in this situation before? What was I like as a kid? Like, I asked my mom so many questions like, how did I used to eat as a kid? When did I change my eating behavior? Because I didn't remember that, and I was like, maybe she knows, or maybe someone in the family has dealt with this before, that it's kind of a family thing. Or so it was a lot of question asking
Yeah, and I
and
think that's important.
yourself very honestly, because you're not always going to like what you see.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, I totally agree. I mean, taking that good, solid look at yourself and finding out where this kind of behavior started and asking those hard questions of yourself is something that everyone needs to do. You know, if you ever want to achieve like full happiness, you have to stop living that lie and just focus on what will make you happy and what will help you heal. Um, Now, there were some really positive ones in there too. You know, I like the one on page 32. I believe it was poem number 23, where it said, I am happy, truly, madly, deeply happy. And the title of that one was, I like the feeling of falling in love. So I fell in love with myself. Do you want to share a little bit about that and, you know, what that looked like for you?
Yeah, I remember having moments when writing the book and just dancing on the street on music, because I was like, oh, I haven't felt this in a while. So like really it was really a roller coaster, right? It was like the super down,
Yeah.
but it was also the ecstasy of, whoa, I'm so happy. I'm like over the moon. I'm doing all the work. Um, like a true feeling of happiness. And I think I hadn't experienced that in a few years before, or even ever. Well, maybe as a kid, of course, but
Yeah.
from my more from my closer memories. So that's why I was like, whoa, I'm truly happy. Like, I don't remember the exact moment I wrote
Yeah.
that. I have some of the poems, I'm like, I know exactly where I was, what I had done that day. But some of them,
So you're clearly in a very good place right now. You know, you've recovered from it. You seem like you're doing well. You know, even just looking at talking with you, you seem like you're doing, you know, very good in the space that you're at. Now, do you ever feel like that tug to go back to where you were? Like, do you ever feel like in your mind, like, I have to be thin again? I have to, you know, get back to this weight? Like, does it ever like kind of in the back of your mind just kind of tug at you and say, come back to me?
I had it today actually. I was walking home and it's so warm, right? And you're so sweaty. I was like, I'm sure in a thinner body this would be better. And then I thought to myself, yeah, because you felt so great back then. Like, it's not gonna matter. Like, if I'm not happy with myself, it's not gonna matter whether I'm 5 kilos more or 5 kilos less, because I can't blame it on my body. My body is just trying to keep me alive. And of course, there's gonna be days where I'm don't feel as great, or where I look in the mirror and I'm like, mm, but then I don't let it get to me anymore. I'm like, okay, that's today. Tomorrow, your stomach will be flatter, or you will feel better because you had a lack of sleep, or you had that extra ice cream last night. Like, your body is changing all the time. It can't stay the same. It's impossible.
So what advice would you give to someone who might be, you know, in the process of healing right now and who's, you know, maybe on that little down slope on the roller coaster, who's saying, you know what, I'm starting to make progress, but I would feel better if I was skinnier. Maybe I should go back to that point. What advice would you give to that person?
I think you have to be very honest with yourself, because you weren't happier at that point. Um, but also, it gets better, and keep going, keep going, keep going, because like I said, I always thought, oh, I can just end up at the happy end and I can skip all the work. Like, just give me my period back and everything in life will be fine. But now I look back and I see, of course, you weren't going to get it back in that first month of healing, because there were so many things you still had to work through. So I would really say, go through the mud, give yourself a year, give yourself 2 years, but keep going, keep going, keep going. Because, and also be nice to yourself about it. Like, nobody has, even the happiest people alive, I'm sure they've cried their eyes out some days, but you need to allow those emotions, because otherwise, I really think I'm reading a book now. It's called The Body Keeps Score, and it's about if something happens to you, the emotion is actually kept in your body. So if you don't work through it, it will be in your body, like, meaning your body remembers, or your mind remembers, your subconscious. So it's going to come back at some point, and it's going to be way worse.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I like the idea that, you journaled down your thoughts, and that you wrote it down. And, something that I do for myself when I was experiencing low self-confidence, whether it be in like body, mind, or whatever, what kind of helped me was, writing as well. I would write down every single day, and I still do to this day. I write down, my daily successes, what good things happen to you today? Like, what things are you proud of today? That'll kind of help you reinforce in your mind, if you're having one of those down days, look for the good that happened that day, and that'll help kind of bring you back up. That's the way I feel about it. And you as a new author and someone who writes amazing poems, that, right?
And what also helps, if you have an up, write it down, write your up down, write your wins down, and then when you have a down, read your up. Because what I do
Yeah.
now is, if I feel really down, I read my poems. I'm like, at least I don't feel that down. Like, I'm not there anymore. I've come a long way.
Yeah, it's like a victory journal. You kind of see,
Yeah.
like you're reading your history of like, okay, I can't believe that I made it from that point to where I am now. Like, look at this progress. It's like all that time and time and time again. It's amazing to see that. And I think that's important for anyone listening or watching this. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's a great thing for you to do. Just journal that down, whether it be on your computer and a notepad that you carry around, on your arm, if that's all you have is like a pen or something. Just kind of keep those positive moments going.
Yeah, and one thing
um
I have on my phone too is I have three reminders per day, like one at 9, one at lunch, and one at night, and just with a positive affirmation, like a
Nice.
little alarm clock that goes off.
That's an amazing tip to have, and I think that would help people too, because it reinforces that, like, in your subconscious mind, like, what you focus on you attract into your life.
Yeah.
That's like a quick overview of what the law of attraction is. What you focus on you create in your life, and if you have those constant reminders, it's going to help you over time. Now, one thing I noticed in your book is you focused a lot on gratitude in certain areas. Now, what does gratitude mean to you, and what would you say is the secret to really feeling gratitude?
I focus a lot on gratitude because, like, I watched The Secret as well, and with the law of attraction, so I knew that would help. But also, I am so very privileged that having too much food is an issue for me. I started last year as well volunteering, which I'm still doing, and these people don't have enough money to buy food. And that's why I was like, okay, I feel my mental health might not be in the best state, but I'm so super thankful that everything else is in place. Like, I have a great job, I have a loving family. That's where that gratitude came from for me. Like, I really try to change my mindset from I have to work on myself to I get to work on myself, and I get to invest in programs or coaches. So I think that's where it came from for me.
Nice. Because gratitude is really, the secret of living. And people who feel deep gratitude are the ones who are the happiest. Like, I remember one time I was talking with a homeless person, and I just asked him, like, how did you get this way? And we had a conversation. He's like, you know what, man? Like, I'm just grateful to be here and alive right now. He's like, I've been through some real bad shit in my life, but the point is, like, I made it through, and I'm grateful that I'm here. So you don't have to be a multimillionaire to feel gratitude. Just so you know, like, you can feel gratitude right where you are in your current circumstances with what you have. um, and I think that's really important. Now, I want to go back to another poem in your book, um, where it was on page 52 of the book. And it said, maybe we should all just accept being perfectly imperfect. Do you want to share a little bit about that and maybe how it can help the listeners?
Yeah, I put a lot of pressure on myself to be perfect, like have a full-time job or a model or have the best grades, be the best student, write the best thesis, do an internship, have a relationship, have the perfect body, be a happy girl, be nice to be around, everything. And then nobody cares, right? It sounds a bit rough, but whether I get an 8 on my exam or an A in the US, Canada, I don't know, or a lower grade, my friends are still gonna love me. Whether or at least I hope, and otherwise I need new friends. But it's the same when you think about others. You like them for who they are, not for what they look like, not for everything they do, but not everything needs to be super perfect. It's okay if you don't have a six pack. It's okay if nobody looks like the models in the magazines. I don't even look like the girl in the pictures because it's Photoshop, like, and thank God they Photoshop me. Trust me, if you have a shooting, you want people to Photoshop you. But it's really about, why do we try so hard to be perfect and for who? Like, why do we put the ladder so high for ourselves? If I was my daughter, or if I look at myself as a little girl, like I'm trying to see more of that. Like I I would love her. I wouldn't want her to change. So why would I put that pressure on me now?
Yeah, I think that's definitely the most important thing, because so many people feel that need to look like somebody else or be like somebody else, when you know what, like you're the unique you who you are. Like there's only one of you. I mean, unless you're a twin, but I mean, there's only one of you.
But then still, twins are unique. I
That's
have twin
true.
friends. They're so different.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're you. You're a one of a kind you, a one of a kind, wonderful uniqueness, brilliance. There's, out of 7 billion plus people on the planet, there's only one of you. So why would you want to be like somebody else?
And also, like, for example, it's really weird for me that people say, "Oh, you're an author." I'm like, "What?" But yeah, because sometimes I feel like, do I even have the right to speak about this or to write a book about it? And then why not? Other people who are less qualified than you do things that you want to do. So why not do it?
Yeah, exactly. Like if like everyone has a story. So, I mean, if, the authors are the ones who are brave enough to write down that story and publish it. So if you have your story, write it. There's somebody out there out of the 7+ billion people on this planet who needs to hear your story. And that's why I'm so grateful to do this podcast, because I meet people from all over the world who open my eyes to things that I never really experienced in my life. I don't really know anyone who experienced it, but other people do. And I think it's important to share these stories and get it out there. So if you're someone who does have an eating disorder and who needs that help, you can hear Ananda's story and get inspired, because she made it through, and she made it, and she's successful, and she's happy and healthy, and enjoying her life right now. Now, the last kind of poem that I want to focus on from the book was, every day I ask myself, who do I want to be? And the title of that one was Myself. And that one was like, wow, that's true. It's like, it kind of bumpers off that last one that we were talking about. Like, who do you want to be? And what does yourself look like? So could you describe to the audience, like, what does being you mean?
Well, I always wanted to be someone else or more successful or making plans for the future. Okay, but why not just be yourself, whoever that is? And I think when recovering, you kind of I identified myself with my eating patterns and with the body that I had back then. And it's like, oh, but if I don't have that, then who am I? So I really felt like also it was very much a journey about discovering, who am I? What do I like? What kind of people do I want in my life? How do I want my days to look like? What do I want to achieve? What makes me happy? What makes me sad? I
Mhm.
think this journey, at least for me, it was not just about the food. Clearly, it's part of it. Like, um, but there were so many underlying things, and I really felt like it was rediscovering who am I? What do I want? What makes me happy? Because I've been denying that for so long, trying to adjust myself to people and places that you forget who you are. When in
Mhm.
the end, people who are supposed to be in your path, they will be there as long as you're yourself and not trying to adjust yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like you got to be yourself. Um, you know, people will either love you for you or they won't. And if they don't love you for who you are, then, they can move on. You're just going to keep going on with your life. Do what makes you happy. Now, just kind of before we end off, I'm going to ask you two more questions here. What would you say success means to you?
At this point, it's really that I am fully myself wherever I am. It was very scary to bring out a book with everything, especially because colleagues are reading it as well. So I think success for me at this point is really following my heart and being happy with where I'm at.
That's amazing. Now, if people want to get a hold of you, where can they find you?
I think the best way to reach me would be through my Instagram. I also have a website, Ananda De Jager, anandadejager.com. And there you have a contact form and an email, but the best way is through Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, but I'm not always active on there. I don't have
Amazing.
TikTok, I don't have Twitter.
Yeah, me either. So again, like we were talking about Ananda's book, Poems of Recovery, A Young Girl's Path to Recovering from an Eating Disorder and Amenorrhea. If this sounds like a book that would be interesting to you, even if it doesn't, I would suggest picking up a copy because just reading through it, you can feel the story, you can feel the emotion, and you can feel the roller coaster ride as you go through. And it's an eye-opening book for someone for anyone really, and anyone who needs help with an eating disorder or anything like that. It's a phenomenal book. So pick it up on Amazon. There's going to be links in the show notes down below, or if you're on YouTube, in the description below, there's going to be links to that book there so you can get your copy. Thank you so much, Ananda, for joining me today. Do you have any
Thank
last
you.
thoughts that you want to share with the audience, or are we good?
The only thing that came up to me was like if life is a roller coaster, which it is, we might as well enjoy the ride.
Exactly. So with
So
that being said,
cliche.
let's enjoy the ride, and maybe we'll get to ride again. Thanks so much, Ananda.
Thank you.
Everything you do, I can't seem to get enough. You got me feeling good, yeah, you got me feeling numb.